am so tired. It's Friday. Spring break for the kids is about to start. We were running so late this morning. My 14-year-old insists that I did not wake him up. I did. I woke him up. And then I woke him up, and then I woke him up, and then I woke him up, and I woke him up, woke him up. Usually, he sleeps in, and the 12-year-old gets up on his own. But the older one does really well in school, and the younger one doesn't. So, like, they each have their own set of problems. When the older one sleeps in, and we're running late, he gets angry if I don't floor it to get to school. I don't like to do that. I don't like to drive quickly, don't like to like gas it when I don't like to drive when I'm tired, but I don't especially like to pedal to the metal, go, go, go when I'm not tired, because I just feel like it adds to that level of risk where, like if I clip the edge of the road, it's going to be a much bigger deal if I'm going at a high speed than if I'm going at a low speed and I clip the edge of the road just because I'm tired. And a lot of these roads, the edge just drops off. Not the one I'm on, but the ones that we have to take to get to the main highways anyway. So that's been our morning. He was, over there loudly sighing in the passenger seat. Because I wasn't going fast enough for him. He did make a comment though. I let him drive the truck a couple of miles back a week ago, and he made a comment that the engine is much louder from the driver's seat than the passenger seat. So there will be times where I'm telling him, I'm like, dude, I'm putting it down right now. And he's like, well, it doesn't sound like it. Well, yeah, because newer vehicles don't have a loud exhaust. They don't have a loud engine. I personally don't like that because wildlife, they can't hear if there's not like a loud exhaust, I prefer a loud exhaust to give them some type of a warning, rather than having a quiet car just creep up on them. So anyway, he was all pissed off. The younger one was ready to go. But then I had to go through the whole like goals of the day thing with him. I got to get him back on track, like with school, because this is bad. He's failing. He's cutting up in class all the time. He's blaming it on ADHD, but I think it's bigger than that. It may have to do with like his lack of socialization. It may have to do partially with his age, but the fact is he's failing his classes and he's getting into trouble. He's getting strikes a lot. So talking in class or not listening to directions, or there's, a plethora of things you can get a strike for. You get a certain amount of strikes and then you get a referral. And then once you get a referral, it just keeps going downhill from there. So he's already had ISS Monday, this last Monday, the first time he had ISS. And they tried to catch him up on some of his schoolwork, but I mean, there's only so much they can do. I'm gonna pull into this car wash thing here. My car is covered in pollen, and my poor runny nose, I know washing it is not gonna last long. Is it full? What? Oh my goodness. I have never seen this place full. I mean, oh, I'm blind now. I can't see. Oh boy. Wait, no, there might be one bay open. If it works. I'm not gonna vacuum it out or anything silly like that. I have a vacuum. I have a pressure washer. It just doesn't have soap. Anyway, long story long, it's 8:24 and it's been a rough day. Right? We're off to a good start. It's been a week. You know what? It keeps messing with my head. It's March 19th. I could swear, like a month ago, it was spring of 2020 and all the shutdown was just starting. I mean, like the day of the shutdown was my stepdad, my beloved stepdad's funeral. March 17th. Like, they weren't supposed to have funerals. They didn't cancel ours because they just, I mean, they'd literally be turning away not just his family, but all the park rangers and everything. And they said they couldn't do it. They were like, no. But if it were tomorrow, we wouldn't have been able to do it if it had been scheduled the 18th. He died the 12th. And I'll never forget, the day before he died, he vomited and he was apologizing to me. You know, and it was a really weird situation. I was over at my mom's house working on something, and I always had my earbuds in because that's what I use for hearing protection with my tools. I have these Bluetooth earbuds that are like, you know, just they have the little cord that wraps around the back of my neck. So if I have them out, they're just kind of hanging. They have like a little magnet to click them together, but I don't wear them out. I always have them in, or at least one of them in. So I usually can't hear what's going on around me if somebody's talking to me or whatever, because I work alone. I mean, let's face it. If I'm talking to a client, I will take them out. I'm not gonna be that person. But if I'm working, I have them in. That day when he vomited, and this was, gosh, barely, like, I mean, less than 24 hours before he died. I was over there working. I had them around my neck, sort of just hanging, but I didn't have them in my ears, which was odd because I was working. I was just go, 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 go. And I hear him sort of like a dry cough, like he might need water. And he was still at that point where he was learning to walk again and all that after the heart attack. He had been in a coma for 3 months. Like, if you don't know the story, it's I have a video, I think, explaining it. Anyway, so he was still relearning all this, and he was doing really well. He had gone on a bike ride a few days before, which we think contributed to this death. Anyway, he was coughing, and I heard it. And I went in, and I said, do you want some water? My mom was at a doctor's appointment of her own. And she had said, hey, are you going to be working at my house because I have to go to this appointment? And I said, oh, yeah, I can schedule that. So I made sure that I would be working at her house that day because I had so many projects going on over there. You know, I was kind of going back and forth. Like, I'd go work for other people, and then I'd, you know, spend a couple days a week at her house or whatever. And occasionally I'd just spend the whole week working at her house. You know, some of it's daughter stuff and some of it's client stuff, whatever. But yeah, I hear him cough, and I go and I offer him some water, and he says, oh, that sounds good. And he had this orange juice that my mom would add like a protein to, and just to get more nutrients in, because he really wasn't eating much, and he had lost so much weight, you know, from between the coma and the rehabilitation and everything. He had lost so much weight. He was so slim, and he was so frail looking, and it was so strange to see this strong, vibrant person so weak and so just worn looking. But his personality was back. So he was joking around, and he was being silly all the time. Well, this day, I got him the water, I got him his orange juice with his, you know, protein stuff in it, and I hear him coughing again, and I go in to check on him, and he's just vomited on his shirt, and he's sweating, and he's pale, and he's apologizing profusely because I'm like, oh, okay, let's get you cleaned up. Let's change your shirt. Because you know, like he could sit up on his own, but it took a lot of energy, and he couldn't hop out of bed and go get a new shirt and clean up and all that, not easily. And it would have taken a while, and he really looked like he was feeling awful. So I changed his shirt and got him cleaned up, and asked him, I checked his first I checked his forehead before I went looking for a thermometer, and he didn't have a temperature. He was just clammy, right? So I texted my mom to let her know, because this was, how like somebody can be sick and you're like, oh, okay, they're sick. And then somebody can be sick and you're like, okay, something's really wrong. Well, I was a nurse for a long time, and you get a feeling sometimes, and I'm like, something's wrong. So I text her and I let her know that I feel like something's just not right. This is not just a bug. Well, she's at her appointment. She comes home, I don't know, an hour or 2 hours late or something like that. And from her coming home, I don't even think a full hour passed before the doctor called. The day prior, he had gone for a regular checkup, physical, kind of see where he was at with the heart attack, and they did blood work. Well, that blood work came back, and then over the following days, more tests started rolling in, but he was already gone by then. Anyway, the doctor said, go to the hospital now. His blood work is bad. His white blood cell count is horrible. He needs to go to the hospital now. Well, this was the beginning of COVID. And I hadn't been taking it seriously because nobody was giving the impression that we needed to. Anyway, that night I had to bring... My mom didn't think that they were going to be staying that long. Like, they thought, okay, well, they'll bring him in, they'll check on him, and then he'll go home. Well, it turned out he had an intestinal blockage and he needed surgery, like, ASAP. They made a big mistake. I believe it was because of COVID, but they made a big mistake. He was on a lot of blood thinners, and they cold turkey stopped his blood thinners. They didn't put him on heparin. They should have put him on heparin. Like, I know enough to know they should have put him on heparin. So that was ultimately what killed him later. Well, early the next morning. But anyway, that night before they went to Gainesville, when they were still up here, I had to stop at the hospital and bring her like computer battery and things that she had just left at home, thinking, oh, we're just going to go into the hospital, get him checked out, and go home. So when I went to walk into the hospital, I go in the front door and there's a desk. There had never been a desk there. And there's like, or it was just like a table set up. And there's a person sitting behind the table with a mask and a shield and like basically suited up as if they're going into an isolation room. So they're gloves and suit and, like contact precautions, full contact precautions. And they start questioning me the second I walk in the door. Have you had a cough? Have you had a fever? And they're like, if you step towards them, they're like leaning back. Like they want, because this was back when people said that it stayed in the air for 10 seconds. So literally, I know people were doing this. If you walked past someone in the store and, like you're starting to come like closer, right? And then you'd start holding your breath. And then once you get past them, you start counting to 10. I know people did that. And I know I did that. But anyway, so he died, which was really sad because the next day was Friday. And the kids were getting out of school for spring break. And as I'm driving them to school is when I get the text saying he didn't make it. Because I knew he was in a code. When I was getting the kids ready for school and getting ready to leave, I knew he was coding, and I knew they were working on him. And I'm just sort of waiting because there's really nothing you can do but wait. And I get a text and it says he didn't make it. And I'm like, okay. And my son says, you don't have to drive us. We can just go home. The other kids all just stayed home. They knew Brandy was in the hospital. I don't think I said anything to them. I don't think I could. Like, I don't think I had words. I don't even think I woke them up. I don't know. Well, I was starting a new job on Monday. It had been on the schedule for at least a month, if not longer. So Friday, though, I picked the kids up from school. And they said, oh, by the way, bring them back in 2 weeks. So spring break is 1 week. Bring them back in 2 weeks. And I'm like, what? Why? Okay. So my brain is just swimming in all this because Brandy's dead. It's like, my dad is dead. And then I have these people saying, oh, bring them back in 2 weeks instead of 1. What? And I didn't really give much thought to it at the time. I just thought, whatever. Monday rolls around. I go and I start my new job. And I let the client know that the next day was his funeral. And that I would either be doing a short day or not at all. And you know, like, that's just the way it had to be. And honestly, that there were a lot of reasons that I couldn't even start the tile. On that Monday, it was such a bummer. Drove it an hour to get there and I can't even start the tile. So the next day rolls around and I was planning on going to work, but then I thought about it more and I was like, okay, so I have to drive an hour there. And the funeral home is at least a half an hour in the opposite direction from my house. So I'm going to be driving an hour there, an hour back, get ready for the funeral, drive a half hour, maybe more, to get to the funeral that I don't even want to go to. I did not want to see him like that. And I didn't have it in me. So I worked on stuff at home and I went to the funeral and I broke. And then for the rest of the school year, they kept telling us, oh yeah, we need another couple of weeks. Here's the computers, here's some paperwork. And what made it even harder is my mom needed nothing more than just to be alone. Just to have some peace or some semblance of peace. There was no peace. Those kids were there all the time. They're bored, they're restless, they're destroying things, they're eating all the time. It was so hard. And so we just had his anniversary on the 12th. You know, it's so weird. Like, a whole year gone. And I feel like my life has been like that for almost 10 years now. It's just, where did time go? But this last year, it really went fast. Like, I remember very specifically thinking almost every week, like, how is it Friday again? Like, it was just Sunday evening. How is it Friday again? Like, what is happening? So anyway, I don't know. I kind of like the way life is right now. I kind of feel like it's a little bit of 90s, a little bit of now, like stores actually close, and I think that's a good thing. I missed that life. And I don't like, because my 14-year-old is the type that if places are open and it's midnight and he wants something, he'll ask me to go. And I don't like driving at night, and I don't want to go out, and I don't want to get things, and I don't want to deal with it. So the fact that it closes, yes, please, please close the store. Please make a reason that I don't have to go out. But with as strange as this last year has been, I don't know. I mean, I don't like change as a person, like just built in for a lot of reasons, a lot of traumatic reasons. I don't like change. But when the change means that things kind of go back to normal, I like that. I don't know. I like that little feeling that life is almost like a little more simple, like how it used to be. And it isn't. It's, you know, that's way off from the truth, but it's not simple. But I do feel like it's opened a lot of doors for people in a way. Like if you want it bad enough, it's made things possible that weren't before or people didn't think were. My only issue is I cannot get internet unless it's satellite. And I refuse to pay for satellite internet because it's such garbage. People have suggested, oh, just wait until Starlink comes out. Have you read the contract for Starlink? They get to choose the provider. They're in beta testing right now. When you pay the $99 now and then the $500 then and then the $100 a month, they choose the provider, and it may be sometime later in 2021. So there's a lot of question marks, and a lot of those question marks are things that are non-negotiables to me. So the whole they choose the provider, that is a non-negotiable to me. No, I know what works in this area. They do not. I know that they're going to go with the best price, the best contract. They're not going to give two hoots who has better coverage, who has faster speeds, whatever. They're going to go with what the company tells them, because if you look at a map, it looks like pretty much any company is good up here. False. One company is good up here. So anyway, that's how my day's going. Really, I mean, March 19th in and of itself is not a significant date. But being that spring break, I pick up the kids today for spring break. And the last time I picked them up from spring break, I was told, I not only had just found out that my dad was dead for the second time in my life, but that I wasn't supposed to bring them back for 2 weeks. And then they didn't go back to school for the rest of the school year. So, kind of in a weird headspace. Definitely tired. Would love a nap, but I really need to rinse off this car and get to work. So, have a good day. I've got to come up with like an intro and an outro. I mean, I have some thoughts, but nothing concrete. Nothing I'm in love with. I don't know. I'll think of something, or I won't. I might just keep things the way they are. I'm a creature of habit, like most. Anyway, have a good day.